And welcome into the OCR Lounge. Today we have an amazing treat again. 2022 graduate. Had two amazing high school moments his junior year. Had an amazing football game and then a putback that we're going to talk about in a basketball game that helped the Patriots win an overall state championship. We're also going to dive into his football journey from first grade all the way now. He's playing at Southern Mississippi. And there's a football game that he just went bonkers on with 388 yards. All that and more in this podcast brought to you by Brown Bottling Group. Today's guest is Davis Dalton. Well, Davis, man, thanks for joining us on the winter break. I know it's you had a football season and you get to come home, and that college break is a lot different than that high school break. You get a lot of time off.
It's pretty much like 2 months off. I got off after exams, I think like December 5th, and I don't go back until next Monday, so it's pretty much almost 2 full months of break and really laid back, very relaxing.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I know high school you only got like those 2 weeks, now you get 2 months, so all those people that are ready to go to college, you get those extended breaks. So man, there's some fun things that we're going to dive in today with a lot of, I mean, you're one of the legends here when you start looking back at it. And I know that's a big word to say, but the stuff that when I was going through the notes of just the things you've done here, and now with you playing at Southern Miss, and we had talked about in the pre-show, you caught the last touchdown of the 2024 season for Southern Miss. I mean, you caught the last one. So a lot of things we're going to dive into. I want to jump straight into these two high school moments that were your junior year that was like, wow. So if you had like Ole Miss has the Rebel Choice Awards, if we had the Patriot Choice Awards, you'd have been like, both of them would be standout performance of the year. The first one I'm going to set up and let you talk about was we played Trinity Christian during the COVID year. And Deion's team comes, you have a breakout game, but there was a 4th and goal that went to you, and I'll let you set up the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, really that whole game I feel like it was kind of unexpected. It was my first ever start at receiver in high school, really first game ever playing receiver. Because my sophomore year, I had a cast on my hand, and really, I think I played like 2 games.
You punted a lot.
Yeah, I punted and kicked, and pretty much that was all I did my sophomore year. So junior year was really my first time ever playing wide receiver. And going in that game, this is the best team MRA's ever played, I think pretty much ever. And we really didn't know what to expect into it. And I remember like seeing Coach Davis whenever the Trinity Christian got off the bus, and even his eyes were widened. I think he was scared for us, and really, I don't even think he has much hope as the players.
Yeah.
And I remember even him talking about that during the pregame speech. But then I went out there and kind of just didn't really know what to expect. And then I remember like the first ball that was thrown to me was like a 40-yard touchdown, just kind of jump ball, and I was like, all right, I guess I can do this.
Right down there in the north end zone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then I guess the game just kept on going. I had, I think, like 8 or 9 catches, ended up with 3 touchdowns, and then ended up going down to the wire. I think we were down 6, you said 4th down, like 4th and goal from like the 9 or 10 or something.
Left hash.
Yeah, left hash. And I really didn't think Coach Davis was, I mean, this is my first time really ever playing. Coach Davis put the game on the line to me and said, all right, you're just going to run comeback right here. Nothing crazy, just a one-on-one comeback route, 5 yards into the end zone, catch it at the pylon. And I was like, all right, I was so nervous. I was shaking out down on the field because I just never done that before.
Right.
And I went out there, caught a pylon, caught it right over the pylon. For a touchdown to go up and tie the game, and then kick an extra point for the win. But it was very nerve-wracking, but I guess I ended up getting it done. It was just awesome to get to experience that.
And that kind of set up your whole, I think, high school career for you, whether it was football or basketball. That kind of catapulted of, putting you on the scene of who we played from being a college football player now. It put you on the scene of, we played Trinity, nationally ranked team. Deion Sanders is the head coach who's now at Colorado. That put you on the scene, I believe.
Yeah, that was definitely the game that especially got me like college exposure. Like after that game, I feel like I didn't even have a Twitter account, and that's what everybody gets recruited on because I didn't think I was ever going to be able to play college football. And that was like right after that game, I remember I was like, oh, I wanted to get a Twitter account, and because right after that game, I remember I gained like
It blew up.
Yeah, it blew up, and immediately I was all over Twitter and like getting recruited a little bit.
The catch. I mean, I remember the catch was like people were saying all over the place of like, "Have you seen this catch? Have you seen this catch?" And
yeah, and everybody saw it too because Trinity Christian actually had their own TV show, that Overtime show.
they sure did.
And so Overtime even posted that on their Instagram and YouTube and all that stuff, and they have like hundreds and thousands of followers, so it blew up right after that. Everybody got to see it.
Davis turned into a national celebrity on one night.
I don't know about national celebrity, but
he put himself on the map. And I think that's cool that those sports moments do that. Like it just takes that one break. And a lot of times kids look for that moment. Student athletes look, I need to have this amount of stats. And you were just talking about how you were nervous. Like you're like, the ball's coming to me right now. And I think the advice I would give, and I think you would echo this, is just let those moments happen. You know, if God has it in your will to go play at the next level, let it happen. Don't worry about scholarships and this. Like, I mean, that game was that. I mean, we'll talk about the Jackson Prep game when you just shattered the state record for receiving yards in a game. But those things just kind of happen. You don't plan those out. The other sports moment in the same year goes back to basketball. And it's the overall basketball tournament. I remember watching it. There was like 1.2 seconds left on the clock or something like that. And you think all hope is lost. The Patriots versus Hartfield to win it all in their gym.
it was actually Greenville Christian.
Was it Greenville Christian?
Yeah.
It was at Hartfield.
At Hartfield for the overall.
That's right. It was at Hartfield. Say that. Old memory.
Yeah.
Old memory. I mean, I thought
you
you graduated in 2021. You're a 2022 graduate. So a lot of things. So anyway, Greenville Christian at Hartfield to win the overall. Stage is set. Tell us how it went.
Well, it was actually a crazy scene at the end. I think we were down. It was 4 points with like 1.2 seconds left, which is like and they had the ball. And so it's pretty much impossible to win. And one of their players actually stormed the court thinking the game was over and got a technical foul, which gave us the ball back and 2 free throws. And I think we put Hub on the line. He made both free throws. And then we had the ball down 2 with 1.2 seconds left. And pretty much the final play was kind of set a screen for Hub, him get a last shot. If that's not open, pass it to Harrison. And we tried to do it, I think, 3 times, and Tyler ended up calling a timeout, not being able to get the ball in 3 times, and we finally got it into Harrison. And I think he airballed the 3, and I was just kind of just out of the play on the backside block, just kind of watching there, like I wasn't in the play at all. I don't even think I set a screen or anything. And he just he airballed the 3-pointer, and then I just caught it right by the rim and had a little putback to tie it to go into overtime, in which we ended up winning the game in overtime.
Yeah.
So it was really completely unexpected, I guess, kind of like the Trinity Christian game. It just kind of fell in my lap right there, and I was not expecting to get the ball at all, especially not have a buzzer beater, because I was probably one of the least of an impact player on that team. I think
from a leadership standpoint was what you brought to the team too. I mean, you're super athletic, and I'm not going to discredit you for that. But saying that you didn't, I mean, there were some good players on that team.
Yeah, I think I was the only one without a college basketball from the starting 5.
There you go.
So it's like, I guess I contributed. Just we had some great players on our team.
Right place, right time.
Yeah,
is what I would say for that. Right place, right time to put it back. They go on and they win the overall. So 2 high school moments that just cement yourself of like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like I had a cool football moment. I had a cool basketball moment. I want to go back to this last football moment before we start diving into your journey, because I think this is one that's another one of those you just kind of let it happen. We played Jackson Prep at Jackson Prep. I'm going to let you tell the whole story, but Davis now has the single season record for receiving yards in the whole state of Mississippi. How'd that game go down?
I mean, it just started kind of off as a normal game, I guess, against Prep, our rival. And we knew I pretty much had man coverage for the way they played and watched film or whatever beforehand, pretty much for the whole game. And I just caught about, I think it was 16 catches or something like that. And I remember Coach Land was calling plays at the time, and he called like 4 choice routes in a row to him. And he was like, if they're not going to play us any differently, we're just going to keep throwing it to you over and over again. And I think like first half, I had like 3 touchdowns, 10 catches, and like over 250 yards. Mm-hmm. And Coach Land was like this was the best game I already had ever. And Coach Land's like, all right, we're going to keep on coming to you. And I ended up getting another 150 yards. And it just, I don't know, it just kind of just piled up over the game, and ended up being state record. And I didn't even know it at the time. After the game, I was like, how many yards did I have? I was thinking like 250 to 300 range. And he was like, oh, yeah, I think you had around 400. And I was like,
what?
I didn't expect it at all. I think before they counted one of my stats wrong at first, and I had like 406 yards just like on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah, I remember Mississippi Scoreboard, I think, put that out.
And like put the wrong stats, and I was like, there's no way I got 400. And that's like, it was a crazy mark, but it was kind of just also like unexpected and just kind of piled up over the whole game, and just catch after catch, and just kept adding up.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson though. We keep revisiting that, but it's a lot of times student athletes, they strive for the record. The whatever it is, I want this catch, I want this touchdown, I want this amount of points in a game. And 3 moments that you've just displayed, just right place, right time for the basket, right? But those moments just happen. I think God allows those moments to happen to see His glory be shown. So let's go back to the way back files of first grade, your football journey. Why do you love it? Why do you love football? And like, we'll talk about 6th grade. We'll go into your dad coaching you, former quarterback, turned receiver. So let's talk about that.
I mean, my dad, and I guess it all started, my dad, I guess, teaching me how to play football. He played college football actually at Arkansas State. He was a kicker and punter there. And so obviously he probably wanted his sons to end up playing football, and I guess got me started in flag football, and it just kind of went on from there, and just I've always loved it since then. I guess I started off as like a quarterback from 1st grade up until, I guess, really 10th grade. I actually got a snaps in 10th grade at quarterback at the I think it was the last playoff game when they just didn't want Phillip Short to get hurt. And so, and then like one of the other quarterbacks got hurt, so I ended up just doing like 10 handoffs at the end of the game my sophomore year. And so like, I really never played receiver until that Trinity Christian game. But it's been full of ups and downs. You know, it's been good throughout the whole time.
If you had to put a stamp on your favorite high school sport accomplishment, you got a ton. There's some that we haven't even talked about. What would be, say, 2 of those accomplishments that you're like, you know what, I love football this much, or I love basketball this much, and all the accolades are great, the All-States, the All-Star games, but this moment really stands out to me?
I'd say just like being able to hang out with everybody throughout like the whole team, and just being able to like hang out and fellowship with them, and really just get you close friends that you'll have for a lifetime, and be able to hang out with them. And I always had that in I guess it's like the locker room stuff for basketball and football. And I feel like I would not have like as much stuff like that if I never played any sports.
I think that's a lost art of going back to it. You're looking at stats, and you're looking at scores, you're looking at my offers, right? Enjoying the brotherhood of being a teammate. And I think teammates matter in that sense. Why do you love football? I mean, you think about this. You've gone on and played, like your dad played college ball. You're playing college ball now. Why do you love football?
I think it's mostly just because the ups and downs of it, and just like the unplanned stuff that like we were talking about earlier. It's just like all these accomplishments you get, and I mean, just stuff that's unexpected. I mean, I know, for example, like whenever I got injured last year, I kind of like truly loved football after I came back from my injury, and like because it was like really the first time I ever missed a game. It was right before the season started last year, and I got hurt for the first time ever. I missed 6 games, and I was like, do I even want to keep doing this? Like, I was barely playing at the time, and it was just really frustrating. And it's also kind of how we came closer to the Lord too. I remember there was a verse that really stuck close to me. It was John 13:7. You may not know what I'm doing, but later you'll understand. And it was just kind of taught me to become closer to the Lord and not really just depend on football, because there's always these ups and downs you'll have, and kind of just be able to fight through that. And then I ended up being able to come back from that injury and end off the season strong, and then be able to start this year. And it's been my lock screen. That verse has been my lock screen for over a year.
That's awesome.
And just all these ups and downs pretty much that you can battle through, and it makes it even sweeter whenever you get back up from those ups and downs.
Well, let's talk about ups and downs. The guy that recruited you is not the head football coach anymore at Southern Miss. You got a new guy coming in. When that mindset happens, so you've gone through injuries and battled back from those, you questioned if you wanted to play football or not. I love it. Biblical grounding of finding out, hey, the Lord has me, right? What's it like now? Is it a up? Is it a down? Is it an uncertainty?
I feel like it's kind of like uncertainty. I really don't know what to expect even going to the spring semester, and that's not even the part with the season. And we have a completely new team with the new portal and everything. I think we lost half our team, and so we got pretty much a whole new team. Like, I think we gained 50 players or something crazy like that. And then I really don't know much about the coach. I met with him in one team meeting, and I guess we'll get to see how he is. And I guess next Sunday is like our first day back.
Yeah.
And getting to meet with him. But like, I really just don't know what to expect at all, because I've only been under one coaching staff while I've been in college.
Right. You said something to me yesterday in the weight room when I was passing by, and I thought it was pretty neat. And you go back to, he used the word influencers, Coach Huff does. Leaders, influencers, right? But you made a comment that, like, there's value in the stuff that you've done on the field and probably off the field, because you're one of the three guys that they've kept, right? They've kept in the locker room. I think that says a lot about A, your character, B, you're a player, right? You can make plays. But having a core group of what Southern Miss football is, and you've been through the ups and downs, as you said. You've seen those, and you're one of those guys that I think kind of anchors what's coming in new, so it's not a total revamp. So you do that. Let's talk about your high school career a little bit more. Personally, the ARB was really close to me, right? I coach running backs now, so our ARB's dead and gone, right? You brought up about teammates and brotherhood. What was it like playing inside that group? And for me personally, I knew what I wanted out of y'all. But for you being in that, Rafe said earlier, like, I thought it was kind of crazy at first, but then it was.
That's kind of what I thought too. Is like, I was like, what is Coach Weaver making up or whatever about all these receivers giving us nicknames and stuff? But I feel like it definitely brought us closer. And I know, like, for example, like, some people are sometimes called their nickname to this day from that group. I know, like, everybody at Southern Miss called Pax Hughes the unit from whenever you came up with that nickname for him, and just stuff like that. And I feel like it just brought us all closer and kind of got us to achieve one common goal and go out there and compete every day. Yeah,
that was kind of my goal of making sure that, yes, football's a vehicle to teach you about life, but giving you nicknames, it's no more than just identifying something bigger than yourself, right? So let's go into workouts. Let's go into workouts here. Coach Adams, in preparing you for college, a lot of strength conditioning programs.
Yeah, I think Coach Adams definitely is about as good as you can get for a high school strength program. And he even does more complex stuff, I think, that we've done in college. And it's just crazy to think about like that. I didn't know what to expect going to a college strength and conditioning program, but honestly, some of the stuff we did here at MRA was harder and more complex and strict, was harder than Southern Miss was for the most part. And I think he was very on top of what all he knows and what he's telling us to do. And I feel like it's definitely the best you can get for a high school strength program. And you very rarely see a strength program like this in high school across the country. So,
did any of those? Because you mentioned you were never hurt. in high school, really, except, you know, your cast on your wrist.
Yeah, I had no serious injuries in high school, and I guess usually strength and conditioning plays a huge role in that.
That's what I was going to get to, yeah.
And I think Coach Adams has a big role in that, and keeping everyone healthy around here in every single sport.
Yep.
And
what about the summer months? You like those running? Did you
my
like the
God.
running? Did you like the
the summer is definitely the worst part of the year.
Sometimes I felt really bad for y'all. I felt really bad.
Yeah, it was very awful, especially when Coach Adams first got here. 300-yard shuttles give me nightmares to this day, and that was definitely the worst part of like the conditioning program and everything. Is the summer months leading up to the season, is doing all that crazy stuff, and you feel like you couldn't even walk to the locker room after you got done. But I mean, it always ends up paying off right in the end. So.
I want to go back and revisit this. I'm making notes just so I can put this in the show notes for people. But I want to revisit the COVID year and how crazy that was. And you bring up teammates, you bring out brotherhood. How was that? Because there was one game I remember in particular, Jackson Academy. I get a phone call that Friday morning, and I needed to see you. And this is Mr. Self. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I need you to come to my office. And Coach Davis is in there, and he says, how close were you to Davis at practice? And that's when all that quarantine, and you had the social distancing. And I said, I mean, I coach him at practice. He said, did you have your mask up? I was like, I don't know. Like, are you? He's like, well, he's out tonight. We need to make sure that you're okay. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm the one that like signals in stuff and all that stuff. So Coach Davis is going crazy. Let's just talk about the COVID year in general.
Yeah, it was some crazy stuff. Like I remember even leading up into that summer when we were just sitting at our house all the time. I was just thankful to have like my own gym at my house. I think it was like a $150 Academy rack, but it was more than a lot of people had. And
the normal push-ups, sit-ups, crunches,
And I was able to just pretty much, that was like the only thing I was ever doing for football during quarantine was just working out like 5 times a week. I had too much free time. And I think that quarantine actually probably helped me more than anything. It's because I had enough free time just to focus kind of on like working out and stuff. And I ended up gaining like 25 pounds.
Yeah, you were a skinny tail as a
sophomore. Going into my junior year, I gained like a good 25 pounds of muscle that I'd never had. I don't know if it was all muscle, but I gained 25 pounds. But it was, and leading into the season, you're all hyped up, and then for like my first start, and then we weren't even allowed to have fans at the first game.
No.
I remember
Deion Sanders is, going back to that game, obviously is right here on Old Canton Road, and a handful of people are here. I remember the fans, like the cheerleaders and the dance team had to sit.
They had to sit in the end zones, and it was like the most hyped up game we've had at MRA, and I think like the limit was like 1,500 people for the game. And it was just weird that whole season having like a limit on everything. And you were talking about that JA game. I remember waking up the day before the JA game, who was the best team besides us in our conference, and I woke up with 101 degrees of fever, and I could like barely move. I remember like almost passed out walking down my steps. I was so sick, and ended up having COVID. And I was trying to convince my mom to let me go to school. And then I like showed up, and like Mr. Self just told me to turn right back around. He was like, he could tell I was sick and heard from people that I had COVID or whatever. And so he's like, "No, you're not playing tonight." So
was that a setback for you? Was it one of those moments of like, why now?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was like the worst thing ever, but it was very annoying. Like it was my first start playing against JA. I still to this day I never played a game at JA. That's crazy.
Interesting.
I never played a game at JA, and
never played in the Brickyard.
And that was like our rival, and it was just weird waking up that morning and having COVID and just having to sit and watch TV from my room. My parents wouldn't even watch the game with me. They were too scared to get sick, and this was like when it was big.
Oh, yeah.
And so like...
You were watching the game by yourself?
I was literally watching the game.
It's like a Remember the Titans type deal. Like you're sitting in there and you're watching.
I'm literally just watching the MRA game by myself all night, and it was just very annoying. Then I had to watch another game the next week because that was a 2-week quarantine.
2-week quarantine, that's right.
And so I think it might have even been 3. I can't even remember.
Yeah.
But...
So full circle moment. You didn't play against JA. We played JA in the state championship game. Mm-hmm. How was that moment? I mean, obviously we won a state championship, first undefeated season in a long time, most wins in school history. I think a lot is said about that with COVID, though. You start thinking about that, the teammates, the brotherhood. You had to stay together so you would not be quarantined or kicked off the team for 2 weeks, 3 weeks because you got sick.
Yeah, I remember even people talking about that, and even talking about like keeping the team together. Like even people are trying to do stuff on the weekends, like go to a little high school party or whatever. Like if no one was even letting, like people on the team were sending out messages, don't go to a party or whatever. And I remember there was like a big like Halloween party that everybody got sick at, I think, and I think it was Halloween, and everyone's like, all right, no more parties for the rest of the season until we finish, and it was like another month or something. And it was just kind of keeping everybody together, and then had the first undefeated season, I think.
Yeah. Well, second undefeated season, most wins in school history.
Yeah, most wins.
So how does that translate if you're talking to a high school junior, senior right now, because they listen to this podcast? How would you tell them that experience in COVID, being team, brotherhood, like holding each other accountable, right? That's the hardest thing I think for high school kids. I got to hold you accountable. I'm trying to figure out how this thing to be a leader, but it's also, hey, I'm a leader, but I don't want to make my friends mad and all that stuff. That whole season kind of encapsulates what accountability looks like, right? For a common goal. How would you talk to a high school junior or senior about, hey, how important it is to be a teammate, a leader, an influencer, versus just being like the light guy that cares about touchdowns and all that stuff?
It really just, I feel like, shows your character and shows how much you really care about what you're doing. And like us not being able to do fun stuff on the weekends or whatever every now and then that year kind of just like made us like focus on football. And I still feel like to this day, like I had a problem with it kind of my freshman year of college, but the past 2 years, like we do morning practices, and it was really hard for me to like make myself just go to bed early and wake up at 6 a.m. and get a good 8 hours of sleep. And that kind of just like something little, it just like shows how much you really want it. And I feel like that made me a lot better as a player and being able to just eat and sleep right. And it's like the biggest problem I had my first year, and just like kind of just staying on top of your P's and Q's.
Yeah, staying disciplined within yourself.
Yeah.
How do you do that? What have you learned about that, about yourself? So we had Thursday morning practices, which is probably real easy. Get here at 6:30 and all that. How was it from your junior, senior year playing here, that one workout in the mornings before a game day? How did you discipline yourself? Like, what were some key things that you did?
I don't know. I feel like it was mostly something just in the back of my head. It's like, you're gonna suck if you don't. It's like more of like a fear of failure if I don't do something right, more than just like wanting to do it. I think that was just not wanting to let anybody down kind of thing. That's always been in the back of my mind whenever I'm going to do something, and just pretty much staying on top of your stuff. Yeah. And you're actually talking about that Thursday morning. It just reminded me. And this is like what actually got me kind of like focused on football, or there was like waking up early and like really making sure you're doing your stuff right. Is I showed up late. This is the only practice I've ever showed up late to ever, and it was one of those Thursday morning practices. It was like the beginning of the season, and I just had a couple good games at receiver. I was actually starting to get in a rhythm, and I showed up late to that Thursday morning practice, and I was about an hour late. I remember my phone died in the middle of the night. I forgot to plug it in, and I remember you like calling my dad, getting me to wake up, and like, all right, where's Davis? And so I wake up, get to school here, show up in pads. I'm pretty much only 20, 30 minutes left to practice before we head into school, and Coach Davis was like, I don't care if you're a starting receiver or whatever. You're about to have 1,400 yards of sleds. And so I ended up having 1,400 yards of sleds for how long I've missed practice. And it was absolutely awful. And I ended up.
That's a lot.
And because he really depended on how much time you missed from practice. And I ended up being the sorest I've ever been for a football game the next day, because I'd just done over 1,000 yards of sleds.
Wow. And
I literally didn't even practice that day. All I did was sleds.
Wow.
And just after that, I was like, I'm not missing anything. I'm going to be on time for everything. And Coach Davis kind of taught me that. After that, it's like, it doesn't matter who you are. you're gonna show up on time. And I know I think I heard our new staff this year, we weren't really as big about that, like missing stuff and big punishments, whatever at Southern this past 2 or 3 years. But apparently if you miss something this year, he's just going to fine you, which is like something like the NFL almost does, and just charge you money. Like it would be like $100 if you miss a meeting or something.
Wow.
Which is very uncommon for college football.
That, but the landscape of NIL, I mean.
Everybody's getting money now.
Somebody's getting money, right? Well, that's interesting. I forgot about you missing that one practice.
Yeah, that was absolutely awful.
That's me getting old. That's me getting old. All right, so we talked about all these great accomplishments and discipline yourself. The one thing that I think's the telling thing, and I hate using the word disappointment or maybe setback's a better word to use for this. Is there one moment you're like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is there ever a setback moment of like, you know what? I really need to dive into who I am. And you might have mentioned that with John 13:7. But also, is there a moment, maybe it's in high school, maybe it's in junior high, you know, maybe it's
I think one moment I think of immediately was right before my sophomore year. I don't think a lot of people actually know this, but I actually tried to quit football my sophomore year. And I'd just gone through like 9th grade spring or whatever when you move up from junior high. I was like, there's no chance I'm playing this year. I was getting bullied. I was like 150 pounds, about 5'11", and I wasn't very good.
Like a toothpick.
Yeah, and I was playing quarterback, and I was like, this is awful. Like, I'm not good enough at quarterback, and I couldn't see myself playing another position. And like I knew I wasn't gonna. I was thinking about kicking, and I was like, I'm honestly might just stick to basketball. And I walked into Coach Davis's office. I was like, I really don't even know if I want to play football, and if I do, I probably just want to be a kicker only. And he was like, no, you're not doing that, and just walked out. And he's like, I'll see you on Monday. And ended up going back into summer workouts, whatever, before sophomore year. But I really tried to quit football, and it's just kind of weird to think about that. And I was like really weird to think about where I'd be now if he let me quit.
So a pivotal moment, I mean, in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a move the needle type deal. What was it about? Is the way he said it? Is the way that he just looked at you and was like, that's not happening?
Yeah, he
what reaffirmed you of like, maybe I need to keep
He just seemed like he was very confident in me, and like he'd been through this before. Like people wanted to quit football and not wanting to really, they didn't really love the game, and like he'd seen it before, but like knew they could be a good player eventually, even if it wasn't right then, and just kind of seeing the future and not what's going on right now.
I think a lot of times it turns into 4 words that coaches say now. I think CEOs need to say it more to their employees, is I believe in you. I think a lot of times that kids at that age, I mean, you're coming off the 9th grade year where you're, in our association, you're the top in the junior high. So you have 9th, 8th, and 7th. And you move in that sophomore year where you're like trying to find your way. And hearing those words, I believe in you, I think go a long way.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that kind of taught me that after that, like people
he believed in you.
Yeah, believe in you even when you don't think you are, and like without saying it. And that kind of taught me, like now, even like in college, it's like you're not going to hear that very often in college football unless you have like a really good position coach or head coach or whatever. And I didn't hear that as much in college, but it's like kind of just got to keep that in the back of your mind. No matter what they say, they still want you there. They want you to succeed in everything you do. And it's just not anything personal. It's just you got to be able to have that confidence in yourself.
Yeah, and it's coaches that do that, leaders that do that, they're transactional, right, if they don't tell you that kind of stuff, versus the transformational, like, I see something in you that, kind of like your sophomore year, like, we see something in you. And a lot of people, I mean, you go back to that sophomore year, and I know we're going back to high school, but, I mean, you didn't play much at all. We know we talked about that, but you didn't play much at all. To go in and having a banner career here. I mean, if you start thinking about the receivers that come through here, you talk about Russ Roller, talk about Street, talk about you. I mean, those are my first 3,000-yard receivers when I was coaching a receiver group. And guys that have come a long way. I mean, Russ didn't catch but probably 14 balls his junior year, probably dropped more than he caught. Remember that? I mean, and that goes back to that I believe in you moment. People are like, why is this guy in there? What? This is why. I mean, we got to keep pushing those guys. So, man, I'm thankful for that conversation you had with Coach Davis, that you stuck it out and played. So, wow, if you're listening to this or watching this, I mean, let that be a lesson to you that no matter where you think you are, man, the people that are influencing your life are going to push you to be the best that you can be. New head coach comes in. Now do you stay or do you go? You get to stay, right? You're one of the three guys that said. What kept you at Southern Miss?
I mean, I like the staff and everything, but like Southern Miss itself, I really did enjoy, or have enjoyed everything since I've been down there. Just the people, being close to home, and like that was kind of like the main reason I stayed, because I was like, I don't think I would enjoy another place as much as I would Southern Miss, and being like all the stuff that comes with it. I know, like I made a bunch of like lifetime long friends. Down there, like, and I'm a Sigma Chi down there, and I've joined with a bunch of my buddies on the football team.
Y'all kind of started that thing too, right?
Yeah, we did, and so a bunch of people on the football team and like basketball team, kind of like we all came and did it, and like a bunch of alumni told us to come create it or bring it back on campus for them.
That's awesome.
And just having all these, like a bunch of like my best friends down there. And I was like, if I go somewhere else, I'm gonna have to redo that all over again and not be able to see them.
Football,
and it's just a lot of stuff to deal with. And I was like, if all this stuff was going well and football doesn't end up working out or whatever, I'd still enjoy it down there.
That's a great point. Being in Hattiesburg is not a bad thing. I mean, you go to Ed's Burgers. Holy cow!
I do end up going to Ed's a pretty good bit. We have a little red card for football, which pretty much pays for certain restaurants around town, and
nice.
Ed's is on there, and I end up going there probably once or twice a week.
So if you go in there, my daughter and my son, when we go down to Destin every summer, they write on their sticky notes.
Yeah.
And have you seen your sticky note? Have you found it?
I haven't seen their sticky note. Are you talking about their sticky note? Or?
Yeah, they wrote a sticky note that Davis is the best or something like that. They put something fun just so you would know.
I've not seen, there's about 1,000 sticky notes in there, but yeah, I do end up going there a bunch. It's a good place to eat, but there's just a bunch of good stuff around Hattiesburg that's fun to do. And I don't think people really realize that until they come down there. They're like, what he was talking about earlier is Oxford and Starkville. They think that's a lot more fun, and they come to Hattiesburg. They're like, all right, that was actually a good time, and they end up coming back.
The hub city is the place to be. The guy who's referring to Alan Burford, who's went to school there too, right? Alan does a lot of our producing. He's producing this show right now. Do a lot of things, but man, he's a Southern Miss to the top kind of guy. And man, that's great. So if you want an hour and 45-minute drive to Ed's Burgers we talked about, man, go visit them. They're good. Also, their milkshakes. The milkshakes are
they are very good.
They're really good. Yeah. So what's next? What's next for Davis Dalton? You're going into your. It's weird. You got 2 years left.
Yeah,
right?
it's technically my redshirt junior year, so I got 2 years left. I guess we're going in this off season, ready to compete for sure. I know we brought in a bunch of new receivers. I think there's like 3 or 4 returning receivers, and I think usually 10 to 15 in a room. Yeah. And I guess I'm ready to compete this spring, kind of earn a spot. And it's going to be a lot tougher than it has been in the past with a new staff who has no idea about me, like no past, isn't from here, and brought in a bunch of their players with them. So, I mean, I guess just going to the spring, head up high, ready to compete with everybody around me and everything I do.
Well, the people who listen to this and the guy sitting across from you, man, I know it's in your DNA. I know it's expected of that. Let's talk post college. Is there an NFL dream there? Possibly. I mean, typically your junior and senior year are your years that you have those breakout years, and we're coming up on those. If that were to call, would you entertain that to go in the NFL? Would you pursue this as a career?
I guess everybody is like, if that opportunity comes up, they're going to do that. Obviously, I think I would pursue that if I had a good last 2 years and had the chance for that. But I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch right now, but I guess I can keep working towards that goal.
Yeah. What is your goal? What post college? Cody Swanson, who was just on episode 3, he talked about the internships that he did unpaid, and now he's a full-time third assistant at UConn. Just got that word, I think, a week ago or 3 days ago or something like that. Coaching career, maybe, or business world.
I'd say I couldn't see myself going into any type of coaching. I couldn't see myself being good at that. But I was probably going into more of like the business world, some type of sales or something. If football ends up not working out, like some type of medical sales, device sales, that kind of stuff. And
making real money.
Yeah, that's the plan, I guess. I'd probably have that as backup plan, good backup plan, and working towards that while still playing football.
There you go.
So
there you go. What sets you apart from being different than any leader in this country? What skill sets do you possess that if you could give anybody just one little nugget of, John Gordon typically calls this his carrying trademark, of what sets you apart, what makes you different from any leader?
That's a hard question, I guess, or big question. I don't know. I feel like one thing I always do is I always feel like I'm great at working towards a goal, and no matter the situation, and even when I don't really feel like it, I feel like I will always get the task done. Is kind of the thing I feel like. Like I don't know if I'm like the smartest or not or whatever. Like I feel like I'll eventually get that thing done, and even when I know, for example, this is our one break of the year where we're completely off from football, but I know I'm eventually going to have to compete whenever we get back next week, and I've still been working out 4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing else to do. Like, why would I not at least work towards something positive for me?
Yeah. You saying all that leads me into this quote, and I don't know who said it, so forgive me. Perseverance prevails when all else fails. Like you're going to see the goal through. Do people gravitate to that with you in the locker room? Do they see that in you? Do they?
Yeah, I guess just that, and like always staying positive through tough situations.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm very good at that, as staying positive whenever things aren't going well. Like this past season, we were pretty bad.
Yeah.
And just kind of keep staying positive in the locker room, that kind of stuff, keeping the team up.
How about in the training room when you were hurt? Were you staying positive in that moment? I mean, because the trainer, you don't want to go in the training room. A lot of people want to go. You don't want to see the trainers, right? That means you're hurt or injured. Did you stay positive in that moment? What was that like?
I remember the first time I got injured, I was not very positive. That was the first time I've ever gotten really seriously injured and had to miss a game. And it was kind of hard on me at first. And that's what I was kind of talking about earlier with John 13:7. That kind of helped me push through that, and I came close with that verse, and like kind of came closer to the Lord after my injury, and it kind of taught me for like hard stuff later in life that I'll be able to get through it. And like I know then I ended up the next year tearing my shoulder again, and then pulling my hamstring 2 more times, and it's like it made those.
Are you questioning God at that moment? Like, am I really supposed to be doing this?
I kind of did the first time, and then when I got injured again, it was kind of like I was a lot more positive about it, because I was like, I got hurt the first time, and then I ended up having 10, 15 catches, played the second half of the season, did pretty well, even as a backup. And I was like, all right, if I made it through that and only played half the season, really wasn't healthy the whole season, I know I can fight through that and be able to do it again. Yeah. And that's what now my shoulder feels better after the injury, or better than before the injury.
That's awesome.
So
good physicians.
Yeah.
I know Southern Miss fans are going to be happy that you're still in that locker room come the fall. I mean, it's a lot of positivity, a lot of perseverance, you overcoming, disciplining yourself. There's a lot of key components in here. And man, I'm thankful to know you and blessed to coach you. I mean, it's one of those things that, starting this podcast, go back and relive the heart of what you guys went through. Some of your experiences in high school, talk about your high moments, your low moments, but really just to capture your stories for other people to hear. So I thank you for joining us today. And
yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Anything else you want to, before we wrap up? Anything you want to say?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Whatever you want to talk about.
Man of many words. But man, we wish you the best of luck here in the fall. If you're a Southern Miss fan, look for number 11 on the sidelines catching TDs, as Davis Dalton's going to have a breakout junior year, just like he did here in high school. So, Davis, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And that was Davis Dalton here in the OCR Lounge today. Some key takeaways that I took, which there was a bunch during this conversation with Davis. But the right place at the right time was one of those moments. A lot of times high school athletes want to dive into stats or points or touchdowns or receiving yards or whatever it is. Let those moments kind of happen. The Lord has a plan for you, and let that happen as it will. Don't force anything. The other one was the uncertainty of his sophomore year in high school football. A conversation that happens with a coach of just saying, I believe in you. Having those words said to you at an early age catapulted Davis to a very successful collegiate career. There's 2 more years left at USM. One of the big ones was being biblically sound and leaning on God with John 13:7 after his injury. Like he goes into that was the verse that kind of just he held on to of like the Lord has a plan for me. I just need to trust that plan. Perseverance is the biggest thing in anybody's life. Is you're going to see a goal through. That's one of Davis's major strengths is he's going to be able to see that goal all the way through. With those life lessons, whatever it is, it's going to help him persevere through a task, whatever it is. He's going to see the goal through. That's why he's being successful not only in high school, but also now in college. And then being a good teammate. I mean, just listen to him about being a good teammate, what it takes to be a good teammate. All those things and more were packed inside of this podcast. So Davis, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule as you're getting ready to start up winter workouts and in the spring ball. And if you're a Southern Miss fan, share this message of what Davis Dalton has done in high school and what he's going to do his last 2 years at Southern Mississippi. Thank you to Brown Bottling Group for sponsoring and being the title sponsor of the OCR Lounge.
There we go.